Good evening and welcome to Politics Nation. Tonight's lead, in her own words. I'm coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia tonight, where just a couple hours ago I sat down with Vice President Kamala Harris. We spoke about the historic nature of her race as she is now facing as an extraordinary historic campaign with just 16 days to go until the election. In just 3 months, that election will take place. Vice President Harris has managed to introduce herself to the American people and pull into a dead heat in the polls. Now she's seeking to draw contrast and mobilize her supporters in the final days of the race, including African-American voters. Meantime, her opponent, former President Trump, is ending with an increasingly hostile and erratic closing message. And that's where we start. Here is my exclusive interview with Vice President Kamala Harris. Well, thank you for allowing us on your birthday to sit down and talk.
Of course.
And I want to get to the Georgia vote and other issues, but let me ask you, as Vice President, and if you hopefully not presented with it, but as president, with Sinwar having been killed, how would you move toward a ceasefire? What do you think the United States should be doing?
So first of all, look, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult, but we have got to get this war over with. We got to get the hostages out. We need the war to end. In fact, we're sending Tony Blinken, Secretary of State, out next week to go and meet with the parties there. And the death of Sinwar, I believe, has removed an obstacle to that end. And so we've got to work at it, and we've got to work at it through diplomatic means, and that's what we intend to do. But listen, the reality of it is that the difficulty of it all is not new to any administration in recent history. And it cannot be the reason that we don't work at it around the clock and be vigilant. And that's what we're going to do. And I think it's very important that that's what we do.
And balance. I mean, I remember in Selma, you made very strong statements about civilians being killed on both sides. And you stood up strongly on that. And I think that's a concern in all communities.
Well, I mean, listen, the number of innocent Palestinians that have been killed in Gaza, it's really unconscionable. And we have to be honest about that. And at the same time, listen, I will always stand in terms of Israel's right to defend itself. And we need this war to end.
We're in about a little over 2 weeks to the election.
Yes.
I have to ask you about your opponent. He used an ugly term about you last night, using the S word as vice president. And how do you react to this kind of street talk from someone who wants to be president again, that was president? I've known you a long time, and I know you have thick skin, but I'm not asking you as a person, because I know you're used to that. But what does it do, in your opinion, to the standards we're setting for our young people all over the country when we're using this kind of locker room street talk about an opponent for president?
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good evening. How are you to this evening? I don't be deceiving. What's up? Oh, I just jumped off one live stream. Shout out to Queen Ahmadiyya Shakur. I had to jump to this channel to do my live stream for tonight. I owe you all good evening. I know I just got it started by just playing the video that you all saw from there. That is from NBC. MSNBC, and from what our topic is about, you all know what I'm going to get into: bought and paid for shills. So we're talking about Al Sharpton. We're talking about roly poly, beep 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 beep. You stupid ass fools, beep beep that don't support beep 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 Kamala, and we're talking about Oprah Winfrey and others. Now, as you all know, it was announced through FEC filings that Kamala Harris, she had over $1.5 billion that was raised, yet she's her campaign raise that she's now $20 million in debt for. And it has come out that she spent a lot of this money on advertising, but also paying uh, interviewers for her to be on their programs. For instance, and we got Al Sharpton here. Now, this was a 16-minute interview. She's interviewed by Al Sharpton. Well, I say 16 minutes, but there was obviously some introductions and stuff. A 15-minute interview, softball questions that he asked her. And if you look even online and you see fair use, by the way, and you look at the likes to dislikes for this interview that was done 1 month ago, with 264,000 views on October 20th, there are over 13,000. You see that right? 13,000 dislikes to 8.6 likes. And everybody's just is loading up on Al Sharpton and Kamala Harris and others. And we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to show the article so everybody can see, ladies and gentlemen. They weigh that, and of course, the New York Post, I will say this much. Yes, they do veer to the right, but a lot of publications, a lot of media, they also veer to the left as well. In fairness, I gotta call it. Everybody, should be neutral, and we're talking about that too. What is journalistic integrity? Journalistic integrity has gone out the window. But they said she spent $1.5 billion, including on bribes. This is the way they define it, to interviewers. So we know that had a $1.5 billion on her failed presidential campaign, hemorrhaging on average $100 million per week, proving that she and her clique are as bad at managing money as they are at generating coherent policy ideas. So she gave $10 million for a series of Gen X bait conferences with the likes of John Bon Jovi. She ended up losing X, talking about voting. A cool million to Oprah's Harpo Productions for Harris's splashy town hall event with the media queen. $900,000 to advertise with the Las Vegas Sphere, and $494 million on overall advertising. Now, they spent all of this money and she still lost. They raised all of this money. Not only did she lose, but she got in debt. Her campaign got in debt. Who can go through $1.5 billion? And let's just say that she got picked to be the Democratic nominee in August. They raised money for her back in June when Biden stepped down. So you're talking about roughly within 5 months, $1 billion, let's just say, has been raised, over $1 billion, and yet already it's gone. You're in debt. Not only is gone, you spent more than what was in your budget. Now, here it says her campaign handed over $500,000 to race war enthusiasts at Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network ahead of her sit down with him on MSNBC. A move that's thanks to high heaven and should, though it won't, utterly wreck the rep of the American answer to Pravada. So here's some more information. And she paid another sketchy news personality. That's a large sketch they would have to draw of Roland Martin, who appeared to have helped leak a town hall question to Hillary Clinton's camp in 2016, some $350,000 via his New Vision Media ahead of her sit down on a streaming show. The Washington Free Beacon revealed the Sharpton payments. Many of these other details came from a gloomy New York Times report on the Harris disaster. Days late, 1.5 billion short, but still, America's lucky the gray lady didn't do more to vet Kamala before her ascent. Otherwise, Trump might have faced a genuine threat. So roly poly, beep, beep, beep. What's so damn sketchy about it? They gave me 350,000. It should have been a meal. Beep, 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 beep. It should have given me more. Now, what I wanted to show with this interview. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen the full interview of Al Sharpton, so I'm breaking in between them, both and four between it. He did 15 minutes with her, and none of the questions you hear were difficult All right, we're back. I'm sorry, y'all. I had a little computer issue. So it went out. Yeah, I got frozen. So sorry about that. Uh where I was, what we were talking about, um, we were discussing journalistic integrity. That was the last talk to you about. Now, what was playing for you all when you watched this interview with Al Sharpton and Vice President Harris, he's asking a series of questions, and from what I read and I showed you all in the report, he got paid over $500,000. His National Action Network got $500,000, and he did an interview with her. Now, is there anything wrong with giving money to organizations and groups for a campaign? Not necessarily. No, that's not against the law. However, this is a matter of when we're talking about the integrity of news, the fact whether or not something is true or false, what have they been paid, who's been bought and paid for, what are they saying, is where the issue arises. And here we have someone he's not really a journalist. Al Sharpton just has a TV show on MSNBC News. Roland Martin, you could say, yeah, he's a journalist, although he's been fired from different networks, from CNN. He had radio. Let's not forget, he had News One, which was Kathy Hughes' thing, TV One, which he lost his show there, and he moved to YouTube. And so he created a media company, New Vision, and he had all the blacks, they call it the Black Star Network, whatever it is. Okay. He creates that. He got paid $350,000, and he does another interview with Kamala Harris. Note, he never has Republicans on that channel. And most of the time, if he has a Republican or a conservative, it is done really from the negative. Anybody that has a different viewpoint, he goes and attacks them. Same thing with Al Sharpton, and that's the way this shit is set up on all of these platforms. So here we have a 15-minute interview where Al Sharpton is giving softball questions to Vice President Harris. And fair use, you got 8.6 thousand dislikes to 13,000 likes to 13,000 dislikes, excuse me. Notice also too, on these shills that are getting kicked out, even on CNN, there's cuts coming. MSNBC's ratings have taken a dive.
United States.
So the American people deserve so much better. That's how I come at it. And to your point, the president of the United States must set a standard, not only for our nation, but understanding the standard that we as a nation must set for the world. We as representing the United States of America walk into rooms around the world with the earned and self-appointed authority to talk about the importance of democracy, rule of law, and have been thought of as a role model, imperfect though we may be, but a role model of what it means to be committed to certain standards, including international rules and norms, but also standards of decorum. And what you see in my opponent, a former president of the United States, really is, it demeans the office. And I have said, and I'm very clear about this, Donald Trump should never again stand behind the seal of the president of the United States. He has not earned the right. He's not earned the right. And
ooh, this aged well, didn't it? The American people said otherwise, Vice President Harris, which is why they kicked you out. $1.5 billion. These are softball questions, and you watch the interview yourself, and just look at the comments. The comments in this are something else. When you look at it, a lot of people took issue with what they saw from the report, especially after it came in a month. People edited. Someone wrote, the smile and joy on her face is priceless. She knows the softballs are coming at a speed of 2 miles per hour. Someone said, I grew up in a middle-class family. My neighbors had grass. Someone said she has rare talent that's hard to find. She has the ability to speak for 15 minutes without conveying anything of real substance. Yeah, and there's no policies.
that's why he's going to lose.
I remember 1972. I was 17, going on 18. worked as youth director for Shirley Chisholm's campaign for president.
Mm-hmm.
And I was stunned at some of the backlash she got were from black elected male officials saying they didn't want to support a woman. They went with other candidates. I think it was George McGovern. And I hear these people talking about black men that are pulling away from your campaign, though I've not seen any real evidence of that. Do you think some of the resistance of some men, black and white, is misogynist? And are you proud to see that most Americans, even being polled, have no problem supporting a woman at all? And I'm one that lived from Shirley to Kamala in terms of these campaigns.
And I have an emotional reaction to you raising the point of Shirley Chisholm, because it is on her broad shoulders that I stand, and so many of us stand. And we have come a long way, to your point, and on your specific point about including the fact that I have the support of countless black men who are in elected positions, including just this afternoon and 2 church visits today with the mayor of Atlanta. That being said, I think that you are absolutely right, that there is this narrative about what kind of support we are receiving from black men that is just not panning out in reality, in terms of when I go to last night Atlanta and had, I think, 10,000 people at a rally. I will also say this, Rev. I am very clear. I must earn the vote of everyone, regardless of their race. Or
I'm going to just stop it there because I don't think y'all need to see the interview, but it's all softball questions that he asked, nothing tough.
Gender. And what can be frustrating sometimes is to have journalists ask me this.
We're talking about earning the black vote, which she didn't. I mean, now she had still, I believe, 78%, if I'm not mistaken, of black male voters, and I think Trump had 16%, if I'm quite sure, and others, and the rest went to others. If I'm not mistaken, that was what I saw. So she wasn't able to secure black male voters, even black female. She had roughly about 80 to 85%, something like that, but she did worse than Hillary Clinton. Now, roly-poly, on the other hand, when the New York Times article came out, he decided to do some mail-splaining, and we're going to go ahead and play that for a little bit. I want y'all to listen carefully to what Roland has to say. Fair use, by the way, Roland, in case you want to do a copyright strike.
A story the other day, and this was the story. Give me 1 second. Let me go ahead and get this ready for you. This was the story right here. The story was how Kamala Harris burned through $1.5 billion in 15 weeks. The story was done by Shane Goldmacher. And so he lays out here different spending of the campaign. And in here, they talk about money that was spent on the Sphere Inn venue in Las Vegas. They talked about what was spent on rallies. They mentioned in here in terms of how much was raised. And of course, they're just going through here. They pull the FEC reports and showing, how much went to, Oprah Winfrey's production company, Harpo Productions, to put on the live town hall they did. You heard these liar people out here saying, oh, Beyonce got $10 million. Her mom, Tina Knowles, came out and said, no, that's an absolute lie. It talks about these various concerts in here and things along those lines. And so then it mentioned a variety of other expenses. And
Beyonce may have not, let's say she didn't get 10 million. It's not what I heard and what I read. The fact of the matter is she wasn't doing that for free. Kelly Rowland, because when you look at that stage now, maybe Beyonce didn't get 10 million in her pocket, but y'all don't think Beyonce's production company didn't get paid? That stage had to be set up. Somebody had to get paid for setting up that stage. Somebody got a check for that. They had to pay the workers, set up the microphones, have people in place. Somebody got some money. Now, Beyonce's mother, Tina Knowles, said it didn't happen. Said she didn't get $10 million. Okay. So I'll agree, and I'll say that. Let's say she didn't get paid. They say she didn't receive a penny. She did it, her own flights, her own team, all glam expenses. However, Oprah Winfrey's production company, Harpo, got paid. That's true. How do you still answer, though, for the $20 million in debt after you raise $1.5 billion? I've never heard that of any election camp. Never heard that from any presidential campaign being in debt $20 million after they raised $1.5 billion. Not in my adult life.
And money that was going different places, commercials that should have run. Future Ford weighed in. Then it says some media allies of Miss Harris were also paid. It mentions Roland Martin, who hosts a talk show, was paid $200,000 as a media consultant, and how she went on the Battleground State Tour in October. Okay, and so then it goes in here. Now this is what Roland Martin, who hosts his own streaming program and runs a media company called New Vision Media, received $350,000 in September for a quote media buy that he said was for advertising. And then it quotes me. He said it should have been a hell of a lot more. More should have been spent on Black-owned media. Okay, says Mr. Martin interviewed Miss Harris in.
He means it should have been spent on me.
October. Then it mentions National Action Network. Then it mentions, of course, National Urban League. Now, first and foremost, I don't understand why they put media buy in parentheses, because that's what the $350,000 was for. It was for advertising. Then, of course, you have these people out here. I love people who run their mouths on social media out here, like, you got Tariq Nasheed tweeting like, SMH, and then you got Jamal Green talking about, see, he was paid to attack us because we disagree our positions. No, that means none of you, including you, Jamal, or Tariq, or any of y'all, even understand that media advertising is actually real.
Let me stop there. No, Roland. We understand perfectly what media advertising means. What we're trying to understand is how you ended up with $350,000. And you did an interview with Kamala Harris. You're a journalist. You've been a journalist, as you always like to say. I've been doing this for all of my adult life. You're a professional journalist. You've been on, as long as I've known you, or heard of you, has been over 20, let's just say over 20 years since I've heard of Roland Martin as a journalist when he was based out of Chicago. And most of what I've heard, of course, hasn't been that good. But what we have a problem with is how you can sit down with the vice president and do an interview with her after you get $350,000 for your company. Because it comes off that when you did this interview with her, after you got paid, that you were going to be the one who's going to throw softball questions, which is what you did. Which is why you were against, you've come out against reparations, against brothers and sisters that have been fighting for reparations. You attacked Black men from your pulpit. You attacked Black men like the brother Jamal, who actually is active in his community, doing things and putting in work. You attacked the brother out in Atlanta who had the school. And you attacked Tariq Nasheed and others who have actually put in work and actually have been involved in their communities, in the media, and yet you're getting paid hundreds of thousands, not even I wouldn't even say millions of dollars. I'm about to say stop myself. No, they knew better not to even spend that much on you. The question is your integrity, because it is a bribe if you got paid money and you didn't ask this woman questions. What is your Black agenda? What is it specifically you're going to give for Black folks? You had a parlay with the woman and gave softball questions. A journalist, and this is another reason why Kamala Harris lost. A journalist is supposed to be neutral. Now, I want y'all to look at the definition of journalistic integrity. Journalistic integrity is a vital aspect of the media industry. It is the ethical and professional standards that journalists and news outlets must maintain to ensure they are providing the public with accurate. I'm going to show y'all where I'm reading from. With accurate and unbiased information. The role of journalism. This is from fastercapital.com. The role of journalism is to report on events and people as truthfully and accurately as possible. It is the responsibility of journalists to collect and report the facts without bias or personal interest. Journalistic integrity is crucial in maintaining the public's trust in the media. So, and he lists 5 standards. Number 1, accuracy. One of the most important aspects of journalistic integrity is accuracy. They must ensure the information they are reporting is correct. Number 2, objectivity. Journalists must remain objective in their reporting. They must not let their personal opinions or biases influence their reporting. You see, when I've interviewed my guest, I just did an interview when I was on Queen Ahmadiyya Shakur with one of the accusers of P. Diddy. And I asked questions of the woman. Now, I am not a defender of P. Diddy. I'm a defender of the Constitution. I'm a defender of the presumption of innocence. I believe when a person is accused of a crime, that they're presumed innocent. Yes, I believe that. And I stand by that. However, and so, yes, while I may lean towards, I guess, if you want to say the criminal defense side, I do. I'm also unbiased. I'm willing to let someone talk. I'm willing to let them explain themselves and tell their story. And I may have a question about it. Yes, so I can get to the facts. That's what fact checking is. So we have libel. We have ethical standards. All of this is called into question when you received a $350,000 payout from a failed candidate. Let's not forget, this is the same Roland Martin. This is the same Roland Martin back in 2016 where he got Donna Brazile fired because he got caught giving questions to Hillary Clinton. Donna Brazile had to step down as the DNC chair. Remember that? When her integrity came out, they were so biased. They want to go for Trump. We want to go for Trump. If all you're saying is, oh, I'm not Donald Trump, I'm not Donald Trump, what else do you have to freaking offer? I know what the devil here is doing. This is the devil I know, but I'm dealing with the devil I don't know. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. You're stepping in to take the place of the president of the United States, or God forbid, if something happens to him, ma'am, what is your policies? What are you going to do that's different? Well, I'm no different than Biden. You went on The View and said that. And you think people are going to vote for you? And you're trying to take the easy way out and say, well, it was misogyny. It was racism. No, it was incompetence. Yeah, they may have, I don't doubt there are people who didn't want a black, well, let me rephrase it. I don't doubt there were people who didn't want, or people who don't want a female to lead them as president. Sure, of course. People who don't, there are people, bigots who don't want to see a person of color be in the White House. Yes, absolutely. There are people who are like that. I know that. I'm not stupid. But let's be real, guys. She wasn't a good candidate. I wanted somebody to beat the governor we have, Jeff Landry. And I learned that the man who was the top Democratic candidate, guess what? Sean Wilson, he didn't campaign in New Orleans. He took it for granted. That's what happened with Hillary. They took these people for granted. That's why you lost. You kept talking about the wrong things over and over and over. But let's go back. Let's finish listening to what Rolly had to say. No, you stupid ass fool.
And so then I had one dude say, y'all didn't run any ads? Really? We ran this one.
Bob and I both voted for Donald Trump.
I voted for him twice. I won't vote for him again. January 6th was a wake-up call for me.
Donald Trump divides people. We've already seen what he has to bring.
He didn't do anything to help us.
We ran this one.
Kamala Harris has never backed down from a challenge. She put cartel members and drug traffickers behind.
The point. Now, when I've been on, now look, the major networks, CBS, NBC, ABC, I've seen them run ads for Harris, but I've also seen them run ads for Trump. They have to run both candidates. Roland just ran Kamala's, and she got $350,000, and he got $350,000 to his company.
ad buy in March of 2024. See, for the people out here, this is an actual media company. So there's this show, and there are other shows on the Black Star Network. Okay, it's called a network. Here's what people also don't realize is that political campaigns actually went to YouTube and purchased advertising to Google that actually ran during commercial breaks of this show. Oh, I'm sorry. So you got these silly Negroes. He got $350,000. It should have been $3.5 million.
Nigga, what?
BET got nearly $10 million.
You're not BET, nigga. You're not BET. It should have been 3.5 billion. Y'all see why young people are not flocking to these Negroes? You see why Tom Joyner is off the air? Nobody, listen, Ricky Smiley, I mean, D.L. Hughley, a lot of younger people are not flocking to them. They're tired of being told what to do by niggas like this. You should have got 3.5 million, 3.5 million. And these are the same people. Remember, if you were, Roland was part of that group, him and others, that if you were attacking or saying anything, you know, remember, we were asking for reparations back in 2016, or you were saying stuff like that. They were calling black men bots. Oh, you must work for, you work for Russia. You're a paid bot. And here he's being paid by the Democratic Party. He's not about that black life. He's about the Democratic life. I'm going to prove it to you. This is from the brother TD Hip Hop. TD Hip Hop did a 5-minute video a couple years ago. I want y'all to look at this. Who is really paying Roland Martin to sell out Black America? All credits to TD Hip Hop, this brother. I want y'all to listen to this, all right?
What's going on, everybody? I just wanted to share some interesting information with you regarding Roland Martin that I came across recently. Now, saying that Roland Martin is bought and paid for by the Democratic Party in and of itself is not a profound statement. We all figured that much when, as opposed to pressing Hillary Clinton on her black agenda and what she would be doing for us in exchange for our votes, he instead elected to teach her how to do the wobble. And then he further reminded us of his loyalty to the Democratic Party when he was sitting in his car crying because of how long the line was for early voting. He just knew that all those black folks in line were going to vote for Joe Biden and ski-wee. And with that would come a big payday. Or at least so he thought, until Biden stiffed him on the C-19 advertising money. Now the Biden administration is spitting in the face of the mainstream black media outlets that...
Correct. Now, this is the Democrats. What he's talking about, the C-19 money, I'm going to let him explain. Basically, there were companies, well, the government, of course, can spend money to give to the media to advertise. And I'll give you an example. U.S. Army, the United States Army. I remember some years ago when Barack Obama was president, Byron Allen, that's the black billionaire. He's a comedian too, but he's owns his own network. He was trying to buy CBS. I think had a fight with CBS recently. Byron Allen has his own company, I think Entertainment Studios. He's had some TV shows come on. He was trying to basically buy out, fight CBS. But I remember he was talking about going after Barack Obama, which he did. And I'm glad he did, because Barack Obama was ignoring the black press, in particular with U.S. Army, how they did very little advertising with black networks and so forth. I think only not even 3% of the monies that they had on their budget. For instance, if they had $500 million to do advertising, only 3% of that went to black press. I'm just giving you an example. So it was very low amount. While everyone else, mainstream media, got most of the money, black media was left out in the cold. So now what he's talking about with Joe Biden is a C-19. So let's finish.
Helped him get into office. And to elaborate on that, I'm going to read from this article on Black Enterprise. And just as a side note, you all know there are certain words that I do not say on this channel, so I have to codify them. I know it's a little annoying, but it is what it is. So the title of the article that I'll be reading from is Black Media Shut Out of C19 Vacation Advertising by Biden Administration. Based on analysis Black Enterprise conducted from data received from the Department of Health and Human Services, which has been charged with oversight of C19 vacation outreach efforts, Black-owned media firms have only received a fraction of the overall committed media spend of $212 million to date, and roughly a third of paid media dollars on advertising targeted at Black Americans. Also, none of the nation's largest Black-owned advertising agencies has been contacted by HHS or its agents to participate in media outreach to a population that these agencies have the expertise of effectively developing products and public service messaging for more than 4 decades. These Black-owned media entities include Roland Martin Unfiltered, Allen Media Group, Black Enterprise, and others, are now demanding equity in the distribution of advertising dollars from the Biden administration, or they plan to take action, including calls for an investigation into a pattern of systemic racism in federal government advertising that dates back to the Clinton administration, which included in its executive order that all federal departments and agencies place advertising with Black-owned media outlets and these entities at fair market rates. But now here's the interesting piece of information that I wanted to share with you. You see, when you go to Roland Martin's website, there's an article on there titled, "Now is the Time for Us to Speak Truth to Power." And essentially what this article was just his opening statement to him launching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Now, when you scroll down, there's an interesting paragraph that reads as such: Roland Martin Unfiltered isn't just about me, it's about you. This is why we want this to be powered by the people. I want to thank Lee Saunders and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees for coming aboard as our first corporate underwriter. Their contribution has been vital to get us to this point today, and we look forward to a great partnership. And I can't wait to share some of the other folks we are talking to once we finalize those deals. But when I say powered by the people, that also means you. Now, who is the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees? The American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees is the largest trade union of public employees in the United States. It represents 1.3 million public sector employees and retirees, including healthcare workers, corrections officers, sanitation workers, police officers, firefighters, and child care providers. Founded in Madison, Wisconsin in 1932, AFSCME is part of the AFLO-CIO, one of the 2 main labor federations in the United States. AFSCME has had 4 presidents since its founding. Now, here's the important part. The union is known for its involvement in political campaigns almost exclusively with the Democratic Party. Now, this is why you will never see Roland Martin truly hold the DNC accountable, because essentially the Democrats are his corporate underwriters. Now, what is a corporate underwriter? Corporate underwriting is also called sponsorship underwriting, as the process is somewhat different from underwriting in the general context. Corporate underwriting is popular for television and radio public broadcast organizations like Roland Martin Unfiltered that need financial assistance to provide services. In exchange for the financial assistance, corporate underwriters usually have their products or services mentioned by the public organization. Once again, Roland Martin Unfiltered. You see, every now and then from time to time, Roland Martin may put on the facade that he's funded by the people, but clearly he's 100% funded by the Democratic Party. And as the saying goes, he who pays the piper picks the tunes.
He who pays the piper picks the tunes. Beep, 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 beep. So, beep, 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 beep. Which is why he did this interview with the vice president. It's a 30-minute, I think he did roughly close to 30 minutes with her. And the questions, again, they were softball. 3.3 thousand likes to 5,000 dislikes. Y'all can look at it yourselves. But there is no journalistic integrity anymore. And it's proven when you have shills like Al Sharpton, Roland Martin. And they should just come out and say that. You call yourself the Black Star Network, just call it the Democratic Star Network, man. The Black Democratic Network. Just come out and say it. Yeah, this was his interview. And he literally, from what people are writing in the comments, someone said she is helpless. Roland had to literally ask the questions and answer them himself. No matter how many interviews she does, it's always the same one with the same answers. Like if you're voting for Trump, comment if you're voting for government control. I mean, you just look at the comments. Yeah, anything she's on, they just blast it.
It impacted everyone else. But talk about that, because so many people have only clipped that one part without understanding the public policy implications.
That's too bad. That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that. Right. So you know that I mean, going back even before, but Dr. King was very clear, right? If you have certain policies that recognize, one, that not everybody starts out on the same base. If you have public policy, and I'm talking about economic public policy specifically at this point, but if you have public policy that recognizes historical barriers, and what we need to do then to overcome, first speak truth about them and then overcome them, that in the process of doing that, not only are you directly dealing with the injustices and the legal and procedural barriers that have been focused on Black folks, but by eliminating those barriers, everyone actually benefits.
Now, what they're talking, now what she's talking about, or what they were referring to, was the remarks she made. Remember the video going up viral? I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that only benefits Black people. No, and he tried to defend her, saying they can't do anything specific, fool, for Black people. Yet, we can just Google it, and that's what you can do. The Biden administration specifically has here three laws: the Inflation Reduction Act, American Rescue Plan, and Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, to deliver on the promise to ensure greater opportunity for all, including every Latino family and community. We also look here, hold on. The Respect for Marriage Act. That was signed into law in December of 2022. And that was done to protect homosexual and interracial marriages, although interracial marriages were added later, but it was primarily done to protect gay marriage. That was its purpose. So, and in 2022, it was Joe Biden who signed that into law. That was the purpose. That was the purpose of that. So, to sit here and say that the government can't do or won't do anything specific for a group, because here, marriage traditionally, well, we can go back in the past. Marriage, everybody had the right to marry. Of course, Black people couldn't marry white women, couldn't marry white people, and so forth. And yes, those laws were struck down by Loving versus Virginia. Why? Because race is not a barrier to procreation. In particular, the relationship between a man and woman can lead to offspring. And so a Black man and a white woman can have a baby, a Japanese man and a white female. What they did was redefine marriage, and it was done specifically for a group that only makes up not even 3% of the population of the United States. So let's ask ourselves then why, if you did they do it specifically for that group? Because they were catering to them. They were catering to them. So she was being disingenuous. We can't do anything specifically. You can't do anything specifically. It's for us because you don't want to. Lyndon Baines Johnson, when he was president, Lyndon Baines Johnson was a racist. Lyndon Baines Johnson was on tape. There's audio tapes of him calling Dr. King the N-word. There's audio tapes of him calling him a nigger and so forth, saying stuff about Malcolm X and others. But I give credit where credit is due to Lyndon Baines Johnson. Lyndon Baines Johnson passed laws. He gave us tangibles. He specifically said affirmative action, its purpose was for the benefit of black men, for the benefit of black people. Excuse me, I said men. No, it was to help the Negro at that time because it was black to remedy past discrimination. You couldn't get ahead in life if you were trying to be, for instance, the manager, let's just say, of a large factory in the South. And you had all the credentials, but you were kept back. You had to specifically work with the colored section only. And you had to answer to a white supervisor, things of that nature. And you were more qualified than the supervisor. That's why affirmative action was created. And if these people would just be honest and come out to it with and say, yes, I'm biased towards this party. Yes, this is what I believe. Just come out and say it. I would accept it. We would accept it. But no, that's what we get when we stand with the Democrats, because they take the black community for granted. And we got to eliminate these shills just from, and by eliminate, I mean disassociate with them, especially when they have no bearings, when their platform is very clear. When it's not for our benefit, when it's not for us, if they're not advocating for our issues, then they are insignificant. Now, before I wrap this thing up, someone said, yeah, rest in peace, Chuck Woolery. Yeah, the game show host. Spirit, what's up? Yeah, the game show host died. He was on the host of Love Connection. I think at one time he was the first host of Wheel of Fortune. But I knew him from Love Connection and Greed and Scrabble. Yeah. Yeah, and Juicy Smouye, his case got overturned. Juicy Smouye, yeah, I heard when he got out, he was celebrating with Bussy and sandwiches from Subway. Just yeah, well, they overturned that one because well, they overturned it. Was the same thing with Bill Cosby. If y'all recall, the prosecutor made an agreement if he did all the community service and he did pay a fine, that would be the end of it, which he did. But they brought a special prosecutor on who went ahead and prosecuted Juicy Smouye, and of course, the Supreme Court in Illinois, they looked at it and they reversed it because they said y'all had an agreement. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a whole video on that. I'll probably do, you know what I'm likely to do, instead of doing a live stream like Tuesday or Thursday, because I'm gonna be busy, or I might do a quick live stream but do some videos on that. But yeah, I got a lot to talk. I got something I got to get off my chest, and I'll be brief with it. Yeah, smash up the likes before we get out of here. I have to say something. Thank y'all. All right. Yeah, y'all can smash up the likes while you do. Look, I don't know. I'm sure many of you who are on this channel, I thank you all, are also have been subscribers to other channels like the Black Authority. I'm going to address that in a minute. I don't have a lot of people in here, but I wanted to say this because get this off my chest. I was actually, briefly, I was on the Black Authority's channel last Sunday, actually. I been a listener of his, and I've called in frequently, so he knows me for a few years. And I'll just say I thought it was a bitch move the way he talked to me and addressed that situation when I called in. It was a dickhead move. I'll leave it at that. And y'all can go and watch him if you want. I know he says good thing. He says stuff that we agree with, but it's not what you say. It's also how you say it and address people. And attacking me, my saying I'm not doing enough, just asking me a series of questions about, well, call me, get your ass off my line. Call me when you file a lawsuit. Let me just say this. I want to point this out. I had to talk about this. This is where I wanted to air this out. I don't have to prove myself, and this is for anybody here. I don't have to prove who I am to anybody because I know who I am here. And my work in a community speaks for itself. I've helped, let's just put it this way. I have helped hundreds of brothers and sisters who are facing serious charges. He didn't even allow me. Yeah, you can go back and watch the video and just see what happened. He didn't really allow me a chance to speak, which is what he does, and that's the mark of a bully. I've done a lot of work in the community. I've helped with people get expungements to get charges off their record so they can get jobs. I've given estate planning advice to senior citizens. I've also helped, and I did file some discrimination suits now in the past. I've also worked as a public defender. I've worked with people sometimes not getting paid anything to help them on a case, or even if I got paid in peanuts. So my work speaks for itself, and it don't need to be validated by no man. I don't have to prove myself to anybody. But I thought, and I wanted to get that off my chest because I know we have some people who are on this channel who also subscribe to him. I saw people commenting in the section, but I'll put this on the record, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I have been in touch with him, not since this incident, but I've been in touch because he asked me what lawsuits have I filed. First of all, in order to file a lawsuit, you have to have what's called standing. Why a lot of people or lawyers don't file reparation lawsuits off the bat. Number one, it would get thrown out of the court immediately due to, number one, if you're filing a lawsuit for slavery, you're talking about something that happened over 200 years ago. And I'm not saying we shouldn't forget, but you have to remember this too. There is something called the statute of limitations, number one. Number two, you have to have standing. You have to be the party affected by it. Now, all Black people, we are affected by slavery, so we have that. But you also have to have it against the other persons who, can I sue every white person in the country? It's a wishful thought, but it's going to get, that can't happen. Now, corporations and so forth, you might have something with. It's possible. Yes, there have been, I know, reparations from companies, for example, that have been paid out by corporations who who helped out Hitler in the Holocaust or benefited from the Nazis. But we know who runs the world. Let's just put it that way. And they also had laws that they made and rules that they made that supported that. Now, I will also point out to you an act of, and Judge Joe Brown and I have talked about this, in order to get something like reparations, there has to be an act of Congress that is passed that gives that. Native Americans get that because there have been laws passed that give Native Americans monies. When the Japanese internment happened in World War II, there was a law that was passed by Congress, and the name of the actual law escapes me now, but that was in 1988. in World War II. That was the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, and they paid $20,000 cash to each surviving person who was incarcerated. Now, $20,000 for being interred during World War II, that's not a lot of money, to be honest. I think you could have done more, but obviously this is in the 80s, and $20,000 probably at that time you could use as a down payment on a house. Some situations you probably could have bought a house then. That's over 40 years ago. $20,000, that's little less than that's less than 5% for the full balance of your mortgage. Now, neither here nor there. And yeah, I've been in touch with Jason about some things. And I won't say too much because some of that stuff is still pending, but let's just say I reached out to him. I had contacted him. He had responded via email, but I never heard back from him. I won't get into details of it, but let's just put it that way. And I know for a fact he knows me because he's seen my face. I've called in multiple times, and I know he knows some people. And maybe this video will get back to him. But that was a real dickhead move, man. Now, maybe we can talk about it man to man. Really, I don't have much to say other than that. My reputation, my business speaks for itself. My work in the community that I've done, that I still put in work to this day. I don't brag about that stuff. It don't have to be bragged about. Dick Gregory didn't go around bragging about how many civil rights protests he's been in, how many fasts he's done to bring out the truth of the death of Dr. King and Trayvon Martin and others. I'm not in that business. Even though, yeah, I am an attorney. That's what I do. That's my occupation. That's not who I am personally. But I wanted to address that because we are always dissing one another. I get why some people may have issues with Ben Crump, per se. I gave credit to Ben Crump for filing a lawsuit against Malcolm X. But yeah, with Malcolm X, something like that, or Dr. King's assassination, there's obviously standing with those cases because on a homicide, there is no statute of limitations. And new information came out that we weren't aware of. Well, we had an idea of it, but formally, it came out. Thank you, Danielle. No, but that was a dick move. And I'm saying this on camera, unlike some people who don't come on camera. I'm calling them out man to man. So it's what it is, dog. Maybe this gets back to him. I don't know. But yeah, I just thought it was a bad move what he did. Yeah. But my reputation speaks for itself. So yeah, I didn't get a chance. Yeah, well, I know. Thank you. Spirit, you said you were done with him when he did Sam. Yeah, man, I was really. They say you should never meet your heroes. Not that I considered him a hero, but he was someone I respected. Because a lot of stuff he said, hey, man, I agreed with. He was right. And I'm not perfect. Nobody is. There are things I could do better. And, here's another thing. When you work, another reason too, like what happened with filing lawsuits, you also got to remember this too. I won't say everything that I'm doing here on YouTube because there's something we lawyers have called work product privilege. Certain things that I've seen. So I've talked about my issues with Google. Let's just put it that way. But I can't tell you what strategy I'd be using or what I was trying to do with it. I can't say that. I would never say that because they can just run this video and use it against me. That's for anything. So before the moral to the story, and basically what I'm getting to the wrapping this up and getting to the end is that never judge a book by its cover. Yes, be humble, and you never know. Treat people kindly because you never know who you're running into, who you're talking about. Maybe when you're insulting me and Jason's from Louisiana, you might be talking to the next attorney general of the state. You may want something. Even Dr. Claude Anderson talked about how he had to work with Strom Thurmond. He wanted some black Supreme Court justices down in Florida or in the South, if I'm not mistaken. And he had to work with Strom, or it might have been in the Carolinas because that's where Strom Thurmond's from. But I think Strom Thurmond, they wanted some black federal judges, and he had to work with Strom Thurmond. That's business. It's not personal. I would meet with Donald Trump if it was going to move the needle forward. Sure. I would do the same thing if it was Kamala Harris. If it was going to progress the needle, if it was going to help us, yes. Like Judge Joe Brown even said about reparations, that's got to come from Congress. And he's right. Now, you can sue companies, yes, if there's grounds on racial discrimination, if you find stuff and you find reasons for that, like what they did with Tesla, like what they did with Trump, Donald Trump's places is correct. Donald Sterling was another one. Yeah, if they're standing and there's facts, sure, absolutely. Right. But I've said what I said off of it. I got it off my chest. My record, people who know me, I've gotten not only not guilties, I've gotten full-blown dismissals of cases because I went to bat for my clients. Now, I didn't get a chance to go through and explain, but someone who's a public defender too, you don't file lawsuits. If you work as an attorney, you didn't ask me what type of attorney I am. I'm not a civil rights lawyer necessarily. I have had a general practice, and yes, I've had PI cases, and some of that came in with some civil rights stuff I've taken. There have been some, but if you work as a public defender, depending on where you are, you may not be allowed to private practice. So you work in the community, especially helping poor people, black and white, who can't afford lawyers, to keep them out of jail, which is what I've done, and I've done it exquisitely. And all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I'm going to say on it. But y'all make sure you smash up the likes. Y'all can drop something in the Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle. Ladies and gentlemen, if you feel like it, for your support, I thank you. You all be safe and be blessed, ladies and gentlemen. He's in Shreveport, Spirit. It's not even that. I've lived in Baton Rouge for some time. No, I don't think it's that. I've called in. I don't think it's that. I've called in before. But that's all I want to say on it, man. I don't wish anybody any harm or anything like that. I just speaking man to man. I just thought it was a BS move. But it's what it is. It's his show. I just won't call in. Once you show me who you are and you disrespect me, we're done. So, with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna just move on and look. Y'all go and support my brother Sean James too. Y'all go buy a book. Y'all go buy John Haynes, the Man with Nothing to Lose, because I know brother Sean was having a meltdown the other day on his channel. I saw that. I reached out to him. But yeah, y'all support his stuff. Go buy a book today. I've bought a couple books. I'm gonna buy something else from him just to show my support. So and make sure y'all support me. Why don't y'all buy Got to get on up. And because it's the Christmas holiday, y'all can also buy Be My Baby for Christmas on iTunes. Since Christmas is coming up, make sure you get it on iTunes. It's on Spotify as well, but buy it, ladies and gentlemen. Because you're much sweeter than a candy cane, walking smooth down Santa Claus Lane, with a smile that lights the room so bright, like the star on a tree, Christmas Eve night. That's y'all be safe and be blessed, ladies and gentlemen. I'll holla. Peace. Love y'all. Yes. Happy holiday. I'll probably be on Tuesday, but I'll drop some video. I'm gonna do some videos for sure for things. I probably won't be on Thanksgiving, but I'll do some videos. All right. Whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today. But if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on through our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel gboot2786. All right, I'll holla. Peace.